Alright, Revell's Snowspeeder. It is 1/52 scale. I don't know why they have such odd scales for their Star Wars models, but they seem to all be weird and wonderful. So I'm going to build this and display it in flight. So I'm going to make a base for it, which I've started work in the background. I will show it when what I've done to it is dry it off properly and I can handle it. Basically it's going to be flying, I have a rock mountain in the background, so I'll use a piece of clear acrylic rod to mount it to the base. So there's not a lot to it. It's you can see there, you got 4 sprues. 2 of those sprues just contain the fuselage pieces, and you just got cockpit tub. We got Oompa Loompas for pilots, but I was fortunate to find files on Colts 3D for some Revell pilots. It's the same pose, and which doesn't matter because as are they. They play in my mind every time I look at them. Even in their diagram, they're just out there. Too many donuts for the Revell pilots. Anyway, so hopefully I can just do swapsies, and it's pretty bland in there, but it's in flight, so when the canopy's on, it's not really a focal point. The focal point will be the aircraft with the backdrop. So I shall incorporate them. Hopefully they will work. If not, if I find they're a bit small, I can reprint them. The beautiful thing with 3D printing, you can print it whatever size you want. So yeah, once this together, which isn't a lot to it. It's a click fit really, but being Revell, it might be a bit rough in some areas clicking together, so I'll probably most likely glue it once I click it all in. So I've got them to, that's a bit of a upgrade. I've got you got all the panels on there, but there's no rivet detail, so I'm thinking I might use these. So these are micro, grab the largest one. So like a micro rivet, but they're like a recess punch style rivet. So you got the circle that shows up, push that into the plastic, and there's a indentation in the center, I think, that'll leave a mark. Either way, they're something a bit different to the normal riveting wheel. So I'll choose. You get the whole heap of size there. You go from we got 22 pieces by the looks of it, and they're all different sizes, and that's master tools. It looks like I'm missing one. Shouldn't be, but anyway, I'll have a look for that. Yeah, so I'll put in for the panels to suggest some maintenance hatches or something like that. I'll do it on the underside as well, but you won't be seeing that most likely. But if you do, if you just want to build the kit, you do get a stand with it to display it in flight. So I shall start. As you can see, I've cut these off sprues, just checking it all out, so that'll plug in there. So I'll put the seat section in, which is, what was that? I think that's the seat. So they actually don't have seats to sit on. These ones just plug in to the floor. So I will suss that out. I'll take them off, or one of them off, sit it in there, compare it to my 3D printed one and see if I need to make adjustments. Because the cockpit tub's a bit sparse, what I did was some plastic card, cut off some strips, glued it to the walls, interior walls, and I used the punch set to create some switches, dials or buttons, whatever you call it. And I got some, these are I've downloaded these. You can get them from Annie's, Tom Annie's, so they're really for aircraft, but it doesn't matter. Switches, buttons and whatnot. So what I've done is use some of them, cut the stem off and glued them onto the punched out circular pieces. So when it's all sprayed up, it'll liven it up a bit, that's all. Just something to, because otherwise it was not a lot going on. And it also fills in, because these men are normal and they're chunky, it also helped fill in a bit of space. For my Snowspeeder, it's going to be in flight, so I've made a base up. This is pre-painting, of course. So what I started with was a block of foam, knife or box cutter or whatever you want to hack away at it to a shape that you're happy with. And I use some multi-purpose filler. So this stuff's water-based. So what I'll do is just use a spatula of some sort to get it on the foam. Tree bark from one of my pine trees in my yard that went belly up last Christmas, over a year ago. I pulled some bark off it, and then obviously I've broken it into pieces that I'm happy with. So this is going to be rock, and this can also be rock, or it can be dirt, whatever, however you want to go with it. It is science fiction. So paste on, and then I push the pieces of bark onto the paste, and then I put more in. So I put it up around, keep spooning it on, and I had a tub of water and a stiff brush, and I just keep molding it to the shape I want. And the brushes give you that texture. So if you wanted to make it a different texture, you could use a bit of like aluminium foil, crunch it up and press it into it to create a different texture. But this is just how I wanted it. I will be adding some 3D printed plant life to it, not heaps, just a bit, just to add colour. So it's pretty going to be like a blend. I hope to do it with it's a Snowspeeder, so snow. So I have the rock, could be grey or whatever shades of, and maybe some reds or whatnot, but a bit of plant life, liven it up. And again, it's science fiction, so I'm painting the plant life some funky colours because it's not Earth, it's somewhere in a galaxy far, far away. But yeah, this stuff's pretty, again, I'm in Australia. This is what I could get from we got Bunnings, a big huge hardware store. I grabbed it there. No doubt other countries have different names, but it's still the same thing. It's a filler, and I got this one. It's low shrinkage, and you can sand it, so it's good stuff when it dries. Because I sanded, I was going to mount it on a board, but then I just thought just smooth it off, and that can be just a display like that. It's pretty heavy with all that. I used up a whole tub basically on that, so it's pretty heavy. The Snowspeeder will that's going to be the front, so I'll mount it somewhere in there and it'll be like flying around. Alright, so I've put in my micro rivets. I think I mentioned earlier that the center of them has a indentation. It doesn't, so it's just a circle. So it's, I guess it's like a domed shape, but it's cutting into the plastic. So I did this. It's just different to your standard riveting wheel that you'd use on aircraft. I think this looks better. It makes it look more heavy duty, chunky vehicle. I've done it on the top as well, just random. I still need to do that panel. All I've done is sort of do corners, and some areas the scribing just stops halfway. I've scribed in the lines to complete the line. Some of this will be covered up when I put the guns and that on anyway, but I'm just doing what I can that I can see, and if it gets covered up, it doesn't really matter. And areas like this and here, I've come in with the P-scriber and created a panel line, because it's not recessed. It's not a recessed line, it's just folded. Same as here, I did it there as well. Just trying to liven up a pretty basic kit. So I've painted up the cockpit. Those bits I've added, switches are painted red because it's easier to see the colour, and not that you'll see a lot through the windows anyway. But the instrument panels I dry brushed metal colour, and then I used Posca pens. So they're 0.7mm tip, and you just touch the raised area and the paint flows onto it. They're just like an acrylic paint. So I'm not a figure painter, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have a go, and all you can do is the best you can. So I've painted up my 3D crew, and again, to me it's night and day. I still can't get over what the hell they were thinking when they moulded that. This will get a wash, and then I'll put them in, and then I can start putting it together, the Snowspeeder together. So yeah, just weird. So I just gave them a clear gloss. I'll let it dry a bit more, and then I'll do a wash. Then I shall put that together, and then I can start adding all the parts to the vehicle. Alright, before I push it together, you can see where I've highlighted red is ejection pin marks. Now it's possible these will foul the fit of the bottom to the top, but I don't want to test that theory or check by pushing it together, because it's a push fit. If I push that on, I'm going to have a lot of trouble getting it off, and I don't want to damage it. So I'm just going to clean up the edges. And this one, there is recessed ejection pin marks. I've put CA glue in there. I've cleaned that one up because you might, when I did an engine fit, you could see just part of them, so it's just to play it safe, I'll clean them up. So I got the cockpit in with the crew. I've made them nice and grubby with the wash. So I gotta let that CA glue dry a bit more, clean that up, and while I'm waiting for that, I'll clean these ones up, and then I can put the engine in, put the fuselage halves together. Alright, so I've got it together. Engine area, I've painted Tamiya's LP, so it's lacquer paint, dark iron. I might paint it all internal just so I could cover everywhere. I may mask off the actual engine and repaint the stabilizers, flaps, whatever purpose they serve. The laser cannons are on. They're not great fitting. You need to, when you put them on, you put the front part on first, and it shows you put this side in and then push it over and clip it in. I did it that way, but you might just want to cut the tabs off, glue it down, and if there's a gap, just putty it. I have to putty in a couple of areas anyway. So, and then once that front section's on, the back section, same thing, clip on that side and push it over and clip it in. And there's a gap in here I'll need to fill around that area with a bit of putty, and probably in where it clipped in there is not brilliant. And when I did clip them in, I I glued them as well. I used pegs and that to push them in, get some bite. So the canopy I'll put on next, same thing, it clips in, but I'll mask it first, so I'll use Tamiya tape and cut it out using a backlight. I'll cut out the frame and hopefully it's a good fit. I'm not sure about, I might have to putty that front section there. It looks like it might be a gap, but not too bad. So I've painted my base, or not painted, I've primed, sorry, so I've primed it black just to start and you just took it outside this time, some flat black paint, so it's this stuff, White Knight's the brand, but again it doesn't really matter as long as it bonds to wood, metal, plastic and more, so just about anything. So I need to give it another squirt in a couple of areas I missed, but just be careful. It's a lacquer and I've got the putty over the foam, but if it hits foam it'll eat it. That's what it's done there because it's lacquer, so you be careful with that. But because I had it mostly covered, which is probably why that's eaten away there, it hit the styrofoam, I would say. So I might just patch that in with some acrylic black from my airbrush, some Tamiya or something, just to fill that in, because if I spray that again it'll probably just eat down further. So I'll so basically it'll be like flying like this, and I'll add all my plant life and that to it yet. Alright, the canopy's masked and put on. I've glued it down. I used extra thin to hold it down. It's pretty, I had to glue it and clamp it to hold it down. It didn't really want to sit well. And you can use extra thin as long as you're careful with it. And this one's got a nice wide frame, so it was easier. I've drilled out the cannons, added a hole to them because they were blank, so I used the pin vise to start it off and drill the drill bit in the pin vise, and then a rotary tool to drill it out more. So, and I've masked off the engine section, so we'll paint all that around it. Be easier, better to weather it. I'm going to prime it now. I'm going to prime it with Mr. Mahogany Surfacer 1000, so I need to thin it pretty heavy, but what I want is a chocolate colour as a primer, so I'm treating this more like it would be a piece of armour. That's going to be my primer, and then when I start painting, I'm going to go, something I haven't done for a long time is use the hairspray technique for chipping to weather it. Alright, my mountain base, what I've done is I sprayed it, so I primed it black, then I sprayed it grey, light grey all over. I use, which one do I use? One of these, is it? Pale grey. It was a base coat, so all over, and then I've come in with a chunk of sponge and tweezers, and then I've gone all different colours, so all these, you use whatever you want just to change it up. Well, that's what I want to do, is make it, if you look at pictures of rocks, or actual rocks, they're not a uniform colour and they can be quite colourful, and at the end of the day this is science fiction, so anything goes. So I just wanted to liven it up. When I'd done all the dry chipping technique, then I mixed up some water and some of the dark grey, like a heavy wash, mixed it up, and then got a huge brush and just this one, and just dabbed it over it and let it flow down, just to add a bit more darker grey where it sits and where it dries. So that's the base pretty much for the first part done. I'll give it a flat clear coat, and then I'll start with my plant 3D stuff I've printed up. Alright, so I've primed it, the mahogany. So I primed it with the Mr. Mahogany Surfacer. Like I said, to me this is more like armour, not, even though it's an aircraft, it's a heavy duty aircraft. So I've primed it all over with the mahogany. Use hairspray. I don't know, I stole this off my wife, so I think that's a good brand, but it doesn't matter what brand, cheap and nasty, does the job as well. Sprayed that all over the bottom, pretty heavy coat, and I used my airbrush just to quicken the drying process up. So don't put your paint on when that's still glistening wet, let it dry off so it looks dry. Then I've used, so I'm using for this one, I'm using aqueous, so that's the acrylic paint. For this technique, acrylics works better. You can use lacquer, but you got to be, when you put your lacquer down, you need to get into it straight away, and you may not be able to remove as much as what you would acrylic. So it's just easier basically with acrylic. And an old Tamiya brush I've cut down. So you just coming in, you want to wet the surface. You can use, this is a pretty, it's cut down to make it a bit stiffer, but it's still pretty soft, so you could probably go with something more stiff. And then you just got to work it. It takes a bit sometimes, and then all of a sudden it'll go, so you got to be careful you don't go too much. So it's taken a bit because this brush is really soft, but I don't want to. I'm not going to bore you to death and sit here and do the whole thing. You can also use, if I can pick it up, toothpicks, especially on your hard edges. That'll really get it going quick on the edge. Or, I did have a, what to do with that? This one is real. What I've been using that for, but it's really stiff, so it'll. Actually, no, I don't want that because it's got something on there. Anyway, you get the gist. So no pre-shading on this because I'm chipping. When I'm happy with the chipping, I give that a clear coat, and then it becomes what other effects I want to do become post shading or whatever, however I'm going to weather it. This is the underside, so I've just sprayed it that color. It does, your call outs does have it's got different colors under there, but I won't be seeing mine because it'll be up near the base, but I will do the technique and do it properly. But I'm not worrying about coloring in the other panels because I'm not going to see it, but I will on top. The top has high vis, which I supplied as decals, but so I'll do it the same again. I'll put hairspray. I'll spray my light grey down, and then I'm going to use some Tamiya tape to mask off these. So it's these panels. I think there's one on the nose, and then ones I'll detack it a bit so it doesn't rip off the grey paint. So I'll put the Tamiya tape on here a couple of times to detack it. I'm going to spray in some, I've got some, I'll mix up some orange and fluor. I've got fluor orange or something like that, and I'll spray it on. That way I can go through the both layers, so I can go through the orange and the grey, or however I want to do it. So first of all, I'm going to finish working all that. It'll take a bit, and then I'll do the top. Alright, my mountain base, what I've done is I sprayed it, so I primed it black, then I sprayed it grey, light grey all over. I use, which one do I use? One of these, pale grey. It was a base coat, so all over, and then I've come in with a chunk of sponge and tweezers, and then I've gone all different colours. So all these, you use whatever you want just to change it up. Well, that's what I want to do, is make it, if you look at pictures of rocks, or well, actual rocks, they're not a uniform colour, and they can be quite colourful, and at the end of the day this is science fiction, so anything goes. So I just wanted to liven it up. When I'd done all the dry chipping technique, then I mixed up some water and some of the dark grey, like a heavy wash, mixed it up, and then got a huge brush and just this one, and just dabbed it over it and let it flow down, just to add a bit more darker grey where it sits and where it dries. So that's the base pretty much for the first part done. I'll give it a flat clear coat, and then I'll start with my plant 3D stuff I've printed up. Alright, so I've primed it, the mahogany. So I primed it with the Mr. Mahogany Surfacer. Like I said, to me this is more like armour, not, even though it's an aircraft, it's a heavy duty aircraft. So I've primed it all over with the mahogany. Use hairspray. I don't know, I stole this off my wife, so I think that's a good brand, but it doesn't matter what brand, cheap and nasty does the job as well. Sprayed that all over the bottom, pretty heavy coat, and I used my airbrush just to quicken the drying process up. So don't put your paint on when that's still glistening wet, let it dry off so it looks dry. Then I've used, so I'm using for this one, I'm using aqueous, so that's the acrylic paint. For this technique, acrylics works better. You can use lacquer, but you got to be, when you put your lacquer down, you need to get into it straight away, and you may not be able to remove as much as what you would acrylic. So it's just easier basically with acrylic. And an old Tamiya brush I've cut down. So you just coming in, you want to wet the surface. You can use, this is it's cut down to make it a bit stiffer, but it's still pretty soft, so you could probably go with something more stiff. And then you just got to work it. It takes a bit sometimes, and then all of a sudden it'll go, so you got to be careful you don't go too much. So it's taken a bit because this brush is really soft, but I don't want to. I'm not going to bore you to death and sit here and do the whole thing. You can also use, if I can pick it up, toothpicks, especially on your hard edges. That'll really get it going quick on the edge. Or, well, I did have a, what to do with that? This one is real, what I've been using that for, but it's really stiff, so it'll, actually, no, I don't want that because it's got something on there. Anyway, you get the gist. So no pre-shading on this because I'm chipping. When I'm happy with the chipping, I give that a clear coat, and then it becomes, what other effects I want to do will become post shading or whatever, however I'm going to weather it. This is the underside, so I've just sprayed it that colour. It does, your call outs does have, it's got different colours under there, but I won't be seeing mine because it'll be up near the base. But I will do the technique and do it properly, but I'm not worrying about colouring in the other panels because I'm not going to see it, but I will on top. The top has high vis, which I supplied as decals, but so I'll do it the same again. I'll put hairspray, I'll spray my light grey down, and then I'm going to use some Tamiya tape to mask off these, so it's these panels. I think there's one on the nose, and then ones I'll detack it a bit so it doesn't rip off the grey paint. So I'll put the Tamiya tape on here a couple of times to detack it. I'm going to spray in some, I've got some, I'll mix up some orange and fluo. I've got fluo orange or something like that, and I'll spray it on. That way I can go through both layers, so I can go through the orange and the grey, or however I want to do it. So first of all, I'm going to finish working all that. It'll take a bit, and then I'll do the top. Right, all done. I am happy with that look. It's beaten to hell and back. So I did what I said, sprayed the grey, quickly masked, sprayed in the orange. The longer you leave your paint sit when you do this technique, I find the harder it is to get it reactivated. So you, well, for me, I think you need to try and get it in quick. I use the hairspray, but you can buy products to do it. It does the same thing. Cheap bottle of hairspray from a cheap shop probably only cost you a couple of dollars, where these, I don't know, off the top of my head, they're probably around $8, $9, $10 a bottle, but they last forever. But if I use these, I'll spray them through. I've got several airbrushes. I try and use one for acrylics, so I'd spray it through that and then flush it out when I'm done. But same thing, just spray it over, cover the whole lot. You see it's all wet, leave it sit until it's dry, and then come in and spray your paint on it. It's don't, when you spray it on, you can see it glistening wet. Don't paint on and then wait till it's touch dry, then do it. So yeah, I'm happy with how that turned out. Of course, you can go more or less, whatever suits. I ended up using this stiffer brush. This one was taking way too long to activate, and if you're still having troubles getting it started, just come in with your toothpick and you can see it gets it started, then come in with your brush. It'll take off quicker. So now you can pat it dry, but you need it, well, obviously you need it all the water gone before you start putting anything else on it. When that's dried off properly, I will give it a clear gloss coat, because I'm going to use enamel wash for panel lines on this, and then I may try something else as well that I haven't really given a go yet, but I'll see after I do the enamel wash how I'm looking with it. Alright, this day and age, in the age of our hobby, 3D printing is becoming a huge part. I think there'll be a time when you'll just download a file and print it and build a kit. It'll be a while off, but I think it'll happen one day. People are already making full kits for personal use, I've seen on social media. But so every vignette or diorama I build, I usually incorporate 3D printed something into it, animals or plants or trees. So I've downloaded the file for this plant off of as many sites. These ones are off My Mini Factory, that's the name of the site, and it's basically sculptors, artists, whatever you want to call people who create this these files. They all can put their creations on this one site and they get paid for it. You pay for the file and My Mini Factory gets a percentage and the artist gets the rest, whatever, like that. So what I've done is I've glued the stem to a piece of balsa wood with CA glue. It just makes it easier. I'm going to prime them white and then I'll hand paint in with AK 3rd Gen acrylics, whatever colour I decide. I know it won't be green. It's sci-fi, go beyond, use your imagination, do something different. Plus I want it, because it's a drab coloured Snowspeeder and a drab coloured mountain rock, I want to make it pop a bit with some colour, so this is where these come in. I also printed flowers, but I'm not sure yet whether I'll use them. I'm going to paint these up, put them on and see how I feel about the look. I'm also going to do, I'm going to put a bit of static grass here and there as well, and it'll be probably a dead colour. But I'm going to do, I've been wanting to do snow effects, so I've got some products to do that. I'm going to try like snow on top of the mountain type thing. After all, there's a Snowspeeder in this case. Of course, you can make it whatever you want. You can paint it bloody sand and put it in the desert, but this time I'm doing a snow because I want to do a snow theme. And the grass can be dead, but in this world, plants can grow up in the cold like that. So I'll paint them, place them, put some static grass, and I'm going to see whether I want to make it pop a bit more with those flowers, because I had intended to attach them to this. I can attach some where there's some points of branches sticking out, but it's really mainly leaves, so it makes it a bit hard. I've done the underside with enamel wash. I'm using neutral grey, so I've done the panel lines underneath. That's just had a clear gloss coat, and when I do this I'll be able to do the wash on top of that, clean it up, and then I'll go on to the other thing I want to try and see how it works. There's a bit of a bristle there from that rough brush I was scratching with. So yeah, it's starting to head towards the end. Alright, I've given it a wash all over, so I use the neutral grey enamel wash just in panel lines and the rivet details that I created. The last step I want to do, which I've started here, you can see it's all grubby along there, I haven't really given this a proper go, is your weathering pencils. Yes, I know it's part gimmick. You can go out and buy a normal colouring in pencil and do the same thing, but these are specific colours for the purpose, I guess. But you can use you can wet an area, even though I've given us a flat clear coat, it's still a bit glossy by the looks of it. We can dip the pencil in the water and it can come in and it just comes off. So I'm using, what's that one, that's smoke and dirty white. And of course you do as much or little as you want, and then I'm just coming in with a brush and I'm stippling it. Speed it up a bit of, oh, there goes my water. Lucky that wasn't full aim. I was just trying to get it dry quick so you can see the effect. If you're not happy with it, just come in and wipe it off. It'll come off. Or just put more water on it. And I like to, when I'm weathering, obviously I haven't done much of this, but even when I paint, I like to keep inside panel lines because I can get different variations and whatnot. So if similar sort of thing here, if I do a panel at a time and then come in, this one might be a bit heavy, so I'll come in again. Like I said, if you're not happy with it, just come in. Or you can also do streaking as well if you wanted to. That's not the effect I'm looking for, but, and by no means am I an expert with this, but I think I always hold off on the pencils because it's, you sort of think, what, pencils? That's not really modelling, but whatever works, I guess. Anything can be used if it works. Anyway, so basically I'm just making it real dirty over the paint work of it. I'm not putting anything over top of that. I'm pretty sure if you put a clear coat over that, you lose the effect somewhat. Maybe not all of it, but I think you might lose some of it, so I'll probably just leave it like that. By then I'll have it, when I finish that, I got a piece of acrylic rod. I've drilled the hole, I mounted on there, and I will remove that. Zoom out. No, wrong way. So I've done my almost all my base work. I still got to do the snow effect. So you can see I've made it, given it colour, make it pop. So I've started a small hole there. So I need to drill a bit bigger for this acrylic rod. And I'll mount that rod. Obviously I'll cut it to length, mount it to that, and I can just push it in there. And I'll use, so when I glue it to here, I'll probably use 2-part glue like Araldite. I usually do that for mounting, but don't put it in the foam because it's a hot product, it'll just eat the foam away. So in there I'll pour some white glue, PVA glue, and then it'll be mounted in there like that. So it'll be, I'm not sure on the angle yet, but something like that. So I've kept it, this area's not much going on because the speeder's there, the colour's more up here, and it's just, my goal was to make it pop, like, oh yeah, that's a bit of colour going on there, just a bit of eye-catching. Now I've just got to add that snow detail I want to do, and then that should look very nice. Alright, I've done my snow effect. It's, again, I didn't want it covered, I just want it here and there. Just, again, it's adding pop of colour. So, I'm happy with that. It's so that I use the terrain snow, which is like a paste. Acrylic, it's acrylic paste. My one, even though I'd never opened it, I've had it several years, and I've never got around to using it. When I open it, it's dried a bit, so I just rehydrated it, mixed it up in a pallet, and just rehydrated it and worked, no worries. And then I sprinkled on top of that, so you got these snow micro balloons, so it's like a tiny little powder crystals type thing. So I sprinkled it on top while it was still wet. I just used a little spatula set, just put a bit on that and just come in and flicked it on top to keep it localized. So that is my base done. Snowspeeder is almost done, so you can see I've finished weathering the top with the pencils. I've unmasked the clear parts. Unfortunately I have some bit of dust or something on the inside on the top window, but I can't, because I glued it with extra thin. When I glued it down, I can't get that off, so I just have to be happy with it how it is. It's unfortunate, but anyway. In the engine area I put some smoke oil paint on there and blended it just to grubby it up a bit, and I've got to put in the tow hook cannon thing. What I'm going to do is I painted that NATO black, when I put it in there, I will get some. So I got some gunmetal pigment, and I'll use a little, just a micro brush, and rub it on and make it look like metal. So that'll be the final bit to it, and then I can mount that, and I'll have a final look at the display. Alright, all done. Apologies, but it's flying backwards. It's my little turntable, only goes one way. So I really had great fun doing this little build. I love science fiction. You can do whatever you want, wherever your imagination takes you. There is no right, there is no wrong. The kit, the Revell kit, isn't fantastic, but scrubs up alright. It builds up into a nice little display model, and you can scratch build to it or do what I did. You replace those Oompa Loompas with 3D printed pilots, even though you can hardly see them anyway, so I guess it wouldn't matter if you use the kit ones. So that is it. I will add some still photos of the vignette. This is a bit different. The guys who normally watch me, I normally do aircraft, so it may reach some different people. This one as being sci-fi. So some still photos to follow. Thanks for watching.